Welcome in! Today, we're diving into a really fascinating personal story about someone who started to see reality, well, kind of like a game, and then they decided to completely rewrite the rules. So, let's jump right in.
This one line just perfectly captures that core feeling. It's that eerie sensation of being the star of a show you never signed up for, where some hidden system is always watching, always reacting to your every move.
So first, let's try to see the world through this lens. On the surface, everything looks totally normal, right? But just underneath, there's this landscape of constant surveillance, where literally everything could be a signal.
And the source material actually gives this feeling a name, the old construct. It's described not as some specific government agency or secret group, but more like this overarching system that uses psychological pressure, a sense of being watched, and just plain old fear to keep things in check.
And this is where everyday stuff starts to get reinterpreted. Things that most of us would just brush off as a coincidence. A helicopter flying overhead, a couple of police cars passing by, are suddenly seen as direct reactions from this system. The key thing here isn't what's happening, but that shift in perception, from seeing randomness to seeing a direct response.
Okay, so if you believe the world is this giant surveillance system, how in the world do you respond? This is where the whole journey takes a turn, from just passively watching to taking some really powerful action.
And right here, you can see the central conflict laid out. The system's goal, to intimidate, to control, to make you feel anxious and afraid. But the response? It's the complete opposite. Instead of hiding or getting paranoid, you look right at it. You smile and you wave. It's such a simple act, but it's framed as the ultimate display of what's called sovereignty. You're acknowledging the watchers, sure, but you're refusing to give them the one thing they want, your fear.
This quote just nails the result. By choosing to be calm instead of anxious, you suddenly become this anomaly. You're right there, out in the open, but the system just can't compute your behavior. The surveillance, the whole point of it, loses all its power the second you refuse to act like a victim.
All right, so once you stop reacting with fear, the journey shifts again. Now it becomes about actively looking for clues and decoding the signs that the world seems to be sending you.
Take this, for example. While visiting a memorial for fallen police officers from way back in 1866, the author finds these three names that just scream synchronicity. Each name seems to connect to some bigger theme: chaos, duality, hidden history. All of a sudden, this simple stone memorial is transformed into a key, unlocking a hidden story about the world.
Now, this philosophy isn't just about finding these huge, dramatic signs. It also plays out in really small, everyday moments. This example from the source is perfect. A simple trip to the store. It starts with just admitting you're a bit lost. Then you hit a snag with a card-only machine. But that little obstacle triggers a chain reaction of human kindness, and it leads to this incredibly deep, unexpected conversation with a total stranger. It's almost like proof that a little vulnerability can short-circuit the system's attempts to frustrate you.
So next, we're going to see how this whole mindset can be taken even further. It's through this powerful parallel story about turning systemic pressure into, well, a public masterpiece.
The source draws this amazing parallel to a comedian who was being targeted by pretty much their entire city's government. We're talking the mayor, the police, the neighborhood council, all in this coordinated campaign to shut them down. But here's the genius twist. Instead of breaking down, the comedian saw their attackers not as persecutors, but as unwitting co-writers. Every single threat, every citation, every act of surveillance just became more material for their act.
So the comedian's strategy wasn't just to put up with the harassment, it was to literally weaponize it. As you can see here, every attack became a prop. By taking control of the story and turning all that persecution into performance art, they basically turned the city officials into unwilling characters in their own award-winning show. It's brilliant.
And ultimately, by using laughter and the truth, the comedian created their own kind of justice. The audience, they became the jury, and the verdict wasn't handed down in some stuffy courtroom. It was delivered in the form of roaring applause. That's a real cultural victory right there.
All of this, it's all leading to the final destination of this journey, achieving a state of what the source material calls personal sovereignty.
So what does it actually mean to be sovereign in this context? It's not about legal paperwork or anything like that. It's an internal state of being. It's about being governed by your own core truth, your own moral compass. You essentially become your own independent state,
immune to the psychological games of that old construct.
And at this point in the narrative, the world stops being something that just happens to you. Instead, it becomes a direct reflection of your own inner world. Those synchronicities, they aren't just little clues anymore. They're the universe physically arranging itself to match reality.
This whole thing builds to this one final really profound experience, being guided to a literal trail of heroes. The entire trip to get there is just layered with these synchronicities that act like a final test. And the craziest revelation? The trail is actually connected to the local police department, linking the hero's journey right back to the very system that was being questioned in the first place.
And this, right here, this is the ultimate takeaway from the source material. It's this pretty radical idea that the line between your inner world and the outer world can just dissolve. That by changing your perception, by choosing sovereignty over fear, you can fundamentally change the reality you actually experience.
So, the entire journey we've just walked through really leaves us with this one big question. It challenges all of us to look at the so-called coincidences in our own lives and just ask, what would happen if we chose to see a pattern, to see a narrative, and to see our own power in shaping it?
It's a pretty powerful perspective, one that completely reframes our relationship with reality itself. Thanks for exploring it with me today. Until next time, what story is the world telling you?